I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me, not half listen while you scroll. Really hear me. That thing you're holding on to because leaving feels too hard, the marriage, the house, the whole life you built, the one everybody says you should be grateful for. It might be the thing that's slowly killing you, and some part of you already knows it. My name is Julie. I'm 90 years old, and I stayed in a marriage 30 years too long, not because I loved him, because I was afraid of the door. So sit with me a minute, pull up a chair. What took me half a lifetime and more to understand, I'm going to try and hand to you right now, so maybe you won't wait the way I did. Because here's the first true thing I'll say to you. For 40 years, people said we were the couple who made it work. We weren't. We were two strangers who were afraid of the door. I grew up watching my mother stay. My father was not a kind man. I won't give you the details, that's not what this is about. But I watched her make herself smaller and smaller year after year until there was almost nothing left of her. And I watched the whole town call her a good wife for it. Good wife. That's what they called it. So I learned young, before I could even put words to it, that a woman's job was to endure, that leaving was for weak women, selfish women, that the strong ones stayed and suffered and smiled in the church pew on Sunday. I was 9 years old and I already knew the rules. Nobody sat me down. You don't have to sit a child down. They watch, they learn what love costs by watching who pays for it. So when I married Harold at 22 and he was fine, he wasn't a monster. I brought all of that with me. The enduring, the idea that staying was the same as loving, it isn't. I want you to hear that early because it took me 40 years to learn it. Staying isn't the same as loving. It never was. I told you there was a year I knew. It was 1971. I was 38. And here's the part nobody warns you about. Nothing dramatic happened. I keep wanting to give you a story about a big fight or another woman or a slammed door in the night. There wasn't one. We were sitting at the kitchen table. He was talking about the car, I think, the transmission. And I looked across that table at this man, and I realized I had nothing left to say to him, nothing, and he had nothing to say to me. We passed the salt, and then we passed 20 more years. I knew at 38. I didn't leave until 61. You do that arithmetic with me, 23 years. 23 years I knew and stayed. And oh, the reasons, I was so good at reasons, the children. They need a whole family, I told myself. But the truth? My children were sitting in that kitchen learning the exact same lesson I'd learned watching my mother. I wasn't protecting them, I was teaching them. The money, where would I go, what would I do? I never worked, he had all the accounts. And that one was real. That fear was real, and I won't stand here and pretend it wasn't. And then the reason that held me longest of all. Who leaves at 55? Who starts over at 55? People will talk. My sister will have opinions. It's too late for me now. Too late. I told myself it was too late at 55. I'm 90 now. Do you understand what I'm telling you? When I said too late, I had 35 more years coming that I couldn't see. 35, I called myself an old woman with no time left, and I was barely past the middle of my life. Here's the part I'm not proud of, the part I've never really said out loud. I disappeared slowly. So slowly I never felt the day it happened. I used to paint. Did you know that? No, of course you didn't. By the end, I barely knew it myself. I used to laugh loud, the kind of laugh that embarrassed my children in restaurants. I had strong opinions about books. I had a friend named Lorraine, and I could talk to her for 3 hours and it felt like 10 minutes. And year by year I set those things down, not because he forbade them, mostly he didn't. I set them down myself to keep the peace, to fold myself into the little space that was left over. The painting went first, then the loud laugh, then Lorraine drifted because I stopped picking up the phone. By 55, if you had asked me what I wanted, not what Harold wanted, not what the children needed, just what I wanted, I couldn't have told you. I honestly couldn't. There was no one left in there to ask, and here's the cruelest part of the whole thing. From the outside, we looked like the success story. Our 35th anniversary, the family threw us a party, cake a toast. My son stood up with a glass in his hand and he said, "These two, they're living proof it lasts if you just work at it," and everyone clapped. And I stood there in a blue dress smiling, and I have never in my whole long life felt more alone than I did in that room full of people applauding my marriage. Loneliness inside a marriage is the loneliest kind there is. There's no lonely like being invisible to the one person who's supposed to see you, and having the whole world congratulate you for it. Let me tell you about two women. I want you to see them both clearly, Dorothy. My neighbor 30 years. Dorothy was in the very same boat I was. She knew, same as I knew, and Dorothy decided she'd made her bed and she'd lie in it. She stayed. She died at 79, bitter as vinegar in a house with a man she'd barely spoken a real word to since Nixon was president. That was the road I was on. I need you to see her because that woman was my future sitting right next door. And then there was Lorraine, the friend I let drift away. Lorraine left her husband at 48. And the whole street clucked about it. Poor Lorraine, starting all over, isn't it sad? As I ran into her years later, at a farmer's market of all places. She was 70 and she was lit up. Grandbabies, a little pottery studio out back, a fella named Gus she took dancing on Thursday nights. 70 years old and lit up like a girl. Same starting line, two women. One stayed and went hard and bitter. One walked through the door and came back to life. I had both their futures laid out in front of me like two coats on a bed. And for years and years I kept reaching for Dorothy's. So what finally did it? I wish I could tell you it was courage. It wasn't, really. I just got tired. There's a kind of tired that finally grows bigger than the fear. I was 61 years old, and one ordinary Tuesday morning I was standing at the kitchen sink and I thought, I cannot rinse one more coffee cup in this silence. I cannot do it one more day. And I want to tell you about the terror because you have that same terror. I know you do. I was certain I would fall apart, certain I'd end up broke and alone, and that my children would hate me, and that I'd die in some sad little apartment full of regret. Now here is what actually happened. I was terrified for about a week, and then the terror turned into something I never expected. It turned into quiet, into relief. I still remember the first morning in my own little place. The sun came through a window that was mine, and it was so quiet. And for the first time in 30 years, no part of me was braced. Nothing in me was waiting for the mood of the room to turn. I made myself a cup of tea. I drank it slow, and the only feeling in that whole kitchen was mine. The door I'd been so afraid of all those years. It was never even locked. I'd stood in front of it for 23 years, and the handle turned easy the whole time. It was never the door that was locked. It was me. But I promised you honest, so I'll be honest. After the relief came the grief. Oh, the grief, not for the marriage, for the years, for the 23 I knew and stayed anyway, for the painting I quit, for For Lorraine's phone calls, I let go to nothing. For the whole other woman I might have been if I'd tried that handle at 38 instead of 61. And you don't get those back. I'm going to be truthful with you, you don't. I got 29 good years after I left, 29. And they were good, but I will always know there could have been 50. That's the tax on waiting. You pay it in years, and there's no refund. I'm a slow learner. I suppose I always was, so now I'm going to stop telling you my story and I'm going to talk about yours, because you didn't stumble onto some old woman by accident today. Something in you is standing in front of a door right now, and you know exactly which one. I mean, maybe it's a marriage, maybe it's a job, a town. A version of yourself you outgrew 10 years ago and keep putting on every morning anyway, because taking it off feels like too much. And you've got your reasons, I know you do. They're good reasons, they're real. I would never tell you they aren't: the kids, the money, what people will say who starts over now. But let me ask you the one thing I wish somebody had asked me across that kitchen table at 38. Are you staying because you love it? Or are you staying because you're afraid of the door? Because those are not the same thing, and your one and only life can't tell the difference. It just counts off the years either way. So here's the hardest, truest thing I know, and then I'll let you go. You're allowed to save your own life. You hear me? You don't need permission, not from your children, not from your church, not from the neighbors, not from the sister with all the opinions. You're allowed to save your own life. I waited for a permission that was never ever coming. Don't you do that, and stop telling yourself it's too late. I said too late at 55, and I had 35 years still in me. You have no idea how much life is still coming for you. None. The door isn't locked. It never was. Go and try the handle. And listen, before you go, if you know someone who's grinding themselves down inside a life they outgrew years ago, someone calling endurance loyalty, the way I did for 40 years, send this to them. It just might be the permission they've been waiting for. And tell me down in the comments. I read them, an old woman's got the time. Tell me what's the door you've been standing in front of. Just name it. Naming it out loud is how it starts. And if you want more of these, an old woman saying the things she wishes somebody had said to her, well, you know what to do. Stick around a while. Loneliness inside a marriage is the loneliest kind there is. I know. I lived 30 years inside it. And I just wish I hadn't waited for permission to save my own life. Don't wait for yours.